This story is about a young boy that has shown a talent in magic since he was a kid. He was even hailed as a genius. But by the time he attended the academy, he found out that he was cursed. He cannot cast magic. That's when he got bullied and started to lose hope. Until something came up. Our main character received a system and made him a player. A god that is capable of destroying worlds gave him power. Now, if this got your attention, watch the whole story. The title of the manhwa is Mightiest Melee Magician. The story begins at the Ardell territory. In this small provincial estate, which is no different from a magic wasteland, a baby was born. The midwife informed the mother that the baby is a manly boy, and he looks just like the landlord. This midwife asked if the lady of the house had thought of a name for the child. She named the child Luin. He is Luin Ardell. The baby was so cute. The mother hoped that his child would be a light to the world. From the outside of the building, someone can be heard saying that he will go to the 8th lake. Luin Ardell knew he was different from others since he was a child. While holding a book, he listened to the conversation of two men. The Lord told the subordinate to do his best in acquiring good maritime resources. The subordinate assured the Lord that he will. Luin called the subordinate Mr. Beggins. He told Mr. Beggins not to go to the street near the South Mountain since the flow of mana was weird there. Mr. Beggins asked what he meant and he glanced at the Lord. Later on, the dark clouds came with several lightning and heavy rain. The Lord waited for him at the door. Since he was late, the Lord got worried. Mr. Beggins apologized and explained that it was because he took the long pathway. The Lord asked if something happened. Mr. Beggins shared that he was able to dodge a misfortune thanks to the young master. It made the Lord confused. Mr. Beggins explained that he was able to avoid the street near the South Mountain because of what the young master said. Then he found out that the place was attacked by beast men. The Lord was taken aback. Mr. Beggins mentioned that everyone who went there fell in danger, but he didn't, and it was thanks to the young master. He asked the Lord if it might be because the young master can feel the mana in the air. The Lord replied that he wasn't sure, but if that would be the case, Luin will be the future of Ardell. Starting that day, Luin further kept on showing talent for magic. He sensed mana at the age of 6 and at 7. He was able to manifest it, and the year that he turned 10 came. There was a program, and there would be a speech from the student representative. Luin surpassed countless children of prestigious families at the Ignite Magic Academy, the best magic academy in the Radiant Kingdom. He was announced as the Valedictorian. He eventually enrolled as the Valedictorian with the title Genius. He took an oath in front of everyone. At first, he was overwhelmed, but he thought that his name would raise the status of his family. But that was how far it could go. At the training area, his instructor asked him to demonstrate the skills of the Valedictorian, which he immediately complied. On the first day of the class, he found out that he's not the best, not even the second best. He manifested flame in his hand. But it got big, and it overwhelmed him. The instructor told him to release the fire. But he couldn't. He struggled controlling the flame as he wondered what was wrong. Everyone was surprised at what happened next. Magic Evocation Disorder. Luin's body lacked the innate ability to release magic, even just 1 meter away from his body. As a magician, his body was literally the worst. It only took a moment for the people to find out that he came from a common family that didn't have the talent. So, the attitude of the people around him changed. Quickly. When he was passing by in the corridor, someone intentionally bumped into him. A friend of this student asked the student who bumped into him if he's all right. He added that he's worried for his friend since his friend just touched a disabled bastard, and he was concerned that his friend would become disabled too. And the student who bumped into Luin replied that he better wash himself. Luin was branded as the person incapable of magic. A blemished man who couldn't even perform magic in the Magic Academy. To those who were envious of him, his current state was, the student who bumped into him asked what he's looking at. This arrogant student was about to punch Luin while uttering degrading words at him. And to those kinds of people, Luin was the best toy they could have ever had. A few moments later, someone punched the wall. It was Luin. He let himself be supported by a wall in a secluded place. He cried all his frustration and worries about becoming a magician. Luin Ardell. The name that had enrolled into the academy with the best grades. The name that was more promising than anyone else. The name that was more diligent than anyone else. But thanks to that damn curse, the magic genius that entered the academy with the highest grades turned into a magic cripple. That's how everything ended. He walked into the darkness, but he stopped and narrated that it was how he thought it ended. Without even being able to imagine there would be a miracle at the end of despair. A notification window showed that the artifact player has been activated. Status window has been unlocked. Luin was floating in the galaxy and the artifact player has been activated. He eventually regained consciousness and wondered where he was. He felt like he's deep in the water. The system told him that he's the incarnation of Draka, the destroyer of worlds. He wondered what that meant. And then he noticed something unfamiliar. Before him is a large figure covered in a blue robe. It looked at him. And it revealed red glowing eyes. He wondered if he's dreaming, but he knew that it was too vivid to be one. This man's lips moved and Luin noticed that it's trying to say something. And his eyes saw various colors until it unveiled more colors that reflected on his pupils. Let's go back to a few hours ago before this incident happened. At the Ignit Academy training hall, Luin Ardell was called by the instructor. He was asked to cast a fireball and hit the scarecrow. The person who gave this instruction is Heidel, the combat magic professor. Fireball is a magic that any student of the academy should be able to easily handle. But for someone incapable of magic like Luin, it is such a difficult task. He looked sullen, as he got worried if he'll be able to do it this time. The instructor commanded him to begin. He decided not to give up and was hopeful that it might work this time. He wished to do it at all costs. He was firm that he's gonna do it. The other students were surprised at the size of his fireball. They wondered if that mana is really possible for a human. Heidel watched intently. Luin thought to himself that if he kept going like that, he'd be able to succeed. But he felt something familiar that made him curse. He prayed for himself to hold on, but continuing made him groan until he vomited. The professor called his name and he replied that he couldn't. Heidel instructed him to release it. He replied that it won't leave his hand. Heidel pushed him by reminding him that he's now part of the graduating class. And if he still can't handle such simple magic like fireball, he won't pass the graduation test. Heidel told him that he's destined to fail. He had absorbed that thought. He apologized and promised that he'll practice some more. In the practical shooting test, they're supposed to create 10 fireballs and hit the target multiple times. Our MC, who can't even discharge magic, let alone hit a target, can never become a third-rate magician. A student laughed and uttered on how a good-for-nothing entered the academy as the best student in his class. They all gossiped about him. Some even commented that he should give up. And some described him as the dunce of the academy. Luin knew that since a humble local nobleman like him entered the academy as the valedictorian, it caused feelings of inferiority and jealousy among his peers who hailed from prestigious families, which became a sufficient reason for them to be hostile towards him. He could handle their bullying. But the reality that he had no more hope began to break him down from his very foundation. That is one other than the curse that has been shackling him down for the past 6 years. Manhwa Evocation Disorder. Although he held up well until now, he began to frequently wonder how long he could hold on in the future. A few moments later, at the academy corridor, students talked about how their exam went, but not Luin since he's alone. Then someone talked to him, calling him the duncehead, Luin. The blonde student told him that he should pack his bag, and that if he's in Luin's place, he would be so embarrassed that he won't even show up. But Luin kept persevering. He asked Luin if he knew that the juniors called him. He's referred to as duncehead, Luin. The blonde student blamed Luin by saying that it's because of Luin that the standard of the graduating class has fallen. So he suggested for Luin to just go back home now, back to the rural territory. Another student chimed in. He told Luin that if he doesn't have skills, he should at least have money. But it was this student's first time hearing about the Ardell family. Then the blonde student supported that statement by saying that his father used to say that the Ardell are just fools who act aloof despite having nothing. Luin grits his teeth as he holds back his anger. The student insulted Luin's family even more. But this student wasn't able to finish his sentence because Luin's fist already met his face. The other student was surprised to see his friend being thrown to the ground because of the sudden punch from Luin. Luin dared this blonde student to yap again. The student had a big bruise on his face while his nose was bleeding. He cursed Luin for daring to do that to him. Luin told the student, whose name is Ben Folt, that he should have known when to stop. He was angry that Ben Folt messed up his family. The friend of Ben Folt attacked him while asking him if he has any idea who they are. But before he could reach Luin, Luin had already punched him at the stomach. His knees fell to the ground and he curled into a ball. It was so painful that it made him drool. Luin's attention was caught by someone who called him an arrogant bastard. Ben Folt was angry. He made a ball of lightning on his hands. Luin was alarmed that Ben Folt is trying to use combat magic inside the academy. He released the magic towards Luin while calling Luin a trash with Manhwa Evocation Disorder. He wondered if Ben Folt didn't care even if he got expelled. The lightning ball travels fast towards Luin. Luin watched it but he couldn't move his body. Heidel yelled at them to stop. But the attack had already reached Luin. Luin was covered in a bright light from the attack. And just like that, he thought everything was over. Later on, he received the status window telling him that he's the incarnation of Draka, the destroyer of worlds. And the status window has been unlocked. Artifact player has been activated.